Hi, Roger, I think you just joined us. And we have not started yet. We're waiting a few more minutes for a couple of participants who registered. So we are going to be recording this seminar like we have in the past. I think I just lost him.
I think you did.
In connection to the audio. I'm going to text Marianne, who said that she was going to come.
And the other one says me pal. I don't know what that means.
Where do you see that?
I would like to provide you both with a seller's net sheet.
In the registration?
Oh,
You would gain out of the sale of your home.
With no other information. It's
hi,
M.
Marianne, are you joining the seminar tonight? Question mark. If you need me to email you a link, I can do that, or I can text it to you here.
Looks like a legit email address. MBD.
He's coming back in.
Okay.
Hi, so we're still having some technical difficulties and waiting for a couple of participants to log in, so we haven't started yet. When Crystal sent us that link, it was just the link for the registration to this meeting.
Right. Hi, Roger. Can you hear us?
We are recording on this call right now. Just waiting for a couple more participants to see if they're going to be able to join us. I sent Marianne a message, so hopefully she'll see that. Okay, we'll give it a couple more minutes and then we'll just go into it. I'm going to start screen sharing here.
Yep.
Everybody can see that, hopefully.
Yes, we can.
Okay. We'll give it a minute. And ladies, you just let me know when you want to begin.
I think any time's good. We can, if anyone wasn't able to make it, we can email it to them.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you, Roger, for joining us for the NESO Cal Group at Keller Williams Spectrum Properties Seller Workshop for Orange County. This is going to be applicable whether you live in LA County, Orange County, San Bernardino, Riverside County, doesn't really matter. But some of the statistics we'll talk about tonight in regard to the market update will be specific to Orange County, specifically to Mission Viejo, Greater Lake Forest, and Rancho Santa Margarita area. So we'll get into those statistics and talk about the condition of the market right now, where we are. And then we'll launch into some of the tips and tricks that all sellers need to be aware of, and they're thinking about selling their home or even thinking about preparing to sell their home. Better to be more prepared than not. So we'll launch into this and kind of go into our workshop tonight. I am Noelle Longmire with the Nest SoCal group. And we have our esteemed colleagues here who run the South Orange County office, Manya Persekian and
Hello.
Andrea Connor,
Hello.
equally talented, and want to make sure that we are here for you as a resource if you have any questions, because we're going to have more of kind of a one-on-one opportunity tonight. Feel free to unmute yourself at any time and ask us questions throughout the presentation. And that will certainly benefit anybody who's going to be listening to this recording, as we do put this out on our YouTube channel and distribute this recording to our database as well as to our social media. So thank you for participating. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and move forward. And we're going to talk a little bit about the market and what's happening in the market right now. It is crazy town in the market right now. I can't even begin to tell you. I've been doing this for 20 years. And this is the second time I've seen it at this feeding frenzy level. It is multiple offers on everything. It is days on market, maybe within days, sometimes hours on market, it feels like, before a property goes flying off the market. So it's definitely what we would describe as a seller's market, which is why we're doing a seller's workshop. More and more sellers or homeowners are trying to determine whether now is a good time to sell, if now is the best time to sell, and teetering on the line of whether they do something now, not do something now, test the market, not test the market. And a lot of it has to do with where they're going to go. So we have some answers to those questions. We have some hypothetical situations we can talk about, but we're going to talk about where we are right now, which is what's happened over the last 12 months. So I'm going to get into some statistics here about the average sales price increase, what the average days on market look like right now. That was definitely a decrease, and what our inventory is and why that's driving the market, as well as why interest rates are driving the market, and kind of talk about what projections look like right now. So this is a graph that basically represents what's happening in Orange County. That's the blue line. This is over the last 12 months, starting in April 21st of 2021 through now. And this really represents exactly when the pandemic froze us in 2020, happened in March, when it was like around March 13th, when everything shut down, including the real estate market. For about a solid 30 days, we could not show properties, nothing was moving, lots of listings just shored up for a little while, and nothing happened until the end of April. And that's when things took off like a rocket. So as soon as the pandemic was happening and we were able to show properties again, a lot of movement started because interest rates were continuing to go down. There was a lot of injection of cash that came into the market from government interventions, with people getting their unemployment insurance at a higher rate, lots of government money that was being doled out for the incentive packages and for relief. And so markets started moving a little bit more freely. And that changed from having more properties that sat on the market as of April of 2020 for a while and having more inventory, to a decline because all those properties that were on the market started going into escrow. And not a whole lot of new properties were coming on because nobody knew what was going to happen with the pandemic. So people were sitting it out that hadn't already started to sell their house. So the inventory has gone from about 3.5 months worth of inventory in the entire Orange County area. You see, it was like 3.25 months worth of inventory in Orange County, to less than or almost 2 months worth of inventory. That's a significant difference. And even more significant when you look at the red line, which is Mission Viejo here. That's this little guy. This went from 2.5 or a little over 2.5 months worth of inventory down to less than 1.5 months. This is scarcity, folks. Like, this is like nothing on the market, basically. And in Rancho Santa Margarita, it's even worse.
Yeah, it is.
We're getting down to like less than 1 month worth of inventory on the market. And that is what is driving all of these multiple offers that are happening right now, because there's pent-up demand due to interest rates. Interest rates are right now at historical lows again. They've been holding steady at historical lows for the last few months. And that means buyers want to capture this 30-year fixed rate for a period of time. And they know that they only have a period of time in which to secure those fixed rates. So it's like a feeding frenzy. It's like a whole school of buyers comes to the property that comes on the market and put 20 offers in. Whoever gets it, then they jump to the next property that comes on the market and do the same thing. So it's really driving prices. It's driving the market. And it's been absolute insanity for the last few months, which is great for sellers, because that means that sellers can probably command more than they would in other markets, certainly more than in a buyer's market. They can command higher prices. They can have the best leverage on the terms that they want. It helps them to be able to negotiate things that they wouldn't be able to negotiate otherwise. There's lots of freedom that sellers enjoy. However, if you're a seller, and if you're a seller that wants to jump into the market because you want to buy something either bigger, smaller, lateral, different area, different school district, that means you as a seller, if you're going to be a buyer in the same market, have to be prepared for the same thing. We'll talk about it towards the end. I know we just had someone join us, so if you could mute yourself. There's some feedback there. I'm just going to mute you so that we don't have the feedback, but if you need to interject at any time, just know that we are recording this meeting tonight for our seller workshop here at NESSOCAL with Keller Williams Spectrum Properties. We're talking about inventory right now and the fact that we have decreased significantly the months of inventory that are available to buyers in this market, which is driving this seller's market right now. So we're going to go into the next statistic, which talks about average sales price. So there's an inverse relationship. When you see that months of inventory go down, then you see the average sales price go up. That's just how it goes. That is an inverse relationship. So the median sales price, if you look at Orange County, they started in April of 2020 at median sales price in Orange County, right here on the blue line at just below 725,000. Now that has gone up by over 9% within the last 12 months in all of Orange County. So that's now over the 775 mark. And in 12 months, that's a pretty significant increase when we have already been on the uptick for 10 years, if you think about that. So even better in Mission Viejo, from 700,000 went up to almost 775. That's an 11% increase. And from below 650 in Rancho Santa Margarita now to at 700, you know, that 50K increase went like that. That actually happened really more than anything, because it was kind of flatlined. It came down a little bit. This just happened over the last 3-4 months. If you look at this line here, this happened just in the last few months that it came back up, and it's continuing to go up if you see that direction. So this is where we are right now for sellers. We're at a 9 to an 11% increase in Orange County, depending on your area. And that's pretty much across the board. The same is true, if not even more so, in LA County. LA County has been bonkers with their percentages of increase, especially if you go down more towards Redondo, Hermosa Beach, Manhattan Beach, LA proper. Those areas have sometimes seen double digit, like 21% increase over the last 12 months. So it really depends on where you are, but it's a very strong seller's market right now. So this is a fantastic time to capitalize on the highest possible price you might be able to get in the market. We're also going to talk about what the relationship is to days on market, because this, more than anything, this is all good news. Inventory is low, sales prices are high. The problem is days on market have really left sellers with a lot of time that they need to prepare in advance before they put their homes on the market, because you need to know where you're going and to be able to prepare for the contingency plan, because when you put your home on the market in this climate, you are going to sell lightning fast. The average days on market went here from upwards between 28 days on market, 22 to 28 days on market around here. And now we're talking about less than 10 days on market in Mission Viejo, Lake Forest, Rancho Santa Margarita. All of Orange County is less than 2 weeks. Less than 2 weeks on market before your house is in escrow from the day it begins marketed live, once it was marketed live. So from going from over a month or about a month on market, you had some time to figure out where you were going to go. To now, if you're selling within days to 2 weeks maximum within Orange County, you need to prepare ahead of time as a seller. What are your next steps going to be? This is a really good time if you're in the preparation phase to bring in a professional real estate consultant to kind of find out, okay, what's my trajectory? Where am I going to go? What is that going to look like? And we'll talk about some of those options as we get further into the workshop today. So those are kind of where our statistics are looking right now. And the current market climate is completely supportive of a seller's market. And the projections are it will probably continue to stay as a seller's market so long as the interest rates are maintained at this level. We've seen a little bit of increase over the last month. It came up a little bit. It came up to almost even 4% for a couple of weeks there. But then it went back down. We're hovering within the low 3s to mid 3s. And that's pretty much across the board. Some of the government loans or government insurance loans like VA and FHA loans, those are even still sub 3% right now. So it depends on, of course, your credit profile as a buyer. But for right now, those are 30-year fixed terms. And these are not subprime loans. These are fully underwritten A-paper loans, which is a really good thing for buyers to also understand, is that that's also a protection against a lending climate or a predatory lending climate creating a bubble. And that's, everyone's wondering if this bubble is going to burst. And nobody really knows, no one has a crystal ball, but there are a lot of protections in place to keep the market, at least if it's going to make some corrections, which may happen in the coming year or next year. If there's going to be correction in the market, it will probably be a little bit more of a steady correction rather than a crash. That's at least the projections that I've heard and seen from economists, because there's too much in the economy that's protecting our housing market right now. So that's a little bit about the climate of the market. Now we'll start talking a little bit more, and I'll throw it to my colleagues here, Manya and Andrea from Spectrum Properties at Keller Williams with the Nest SoCal group. They're going to talk about what to do as a seller to make sure that you are prepared ahead of time before you even decide to put your house on the market. Andrea, I'll leave it to you.
So if in preparing your house, if you've considered selling and you want to talk to one of us, we can help you make these determinations. But you can choose to sell your house as is, no renovations, no nothing. But if you want to make a little more money on it and you're willing to do a few renovations, we can help you out with which ones will give you the biggest return. For example, sometimes just a coat of paint, maybe redo the carpet is all you need, and it can make a huge, huge difference in the appearance of your house and therefore the value. Some people think they need to do a full kitchen remodel. Maybe it's just paint the walls and switch out the hardware. We can assess all that stuff if you want to talk to a realtor, and we can help you decide which way to go. As far as what's in your house, the best thing to do is declutter and depersonalize. And that means, you live there, your taste is your taste, but the goal is to have potential buyers see their home there, their stuff. One example is if you have a wall of photos and it's your family photos, that's great for you, but it might be overwhelming to potential buyers coming in. So you'd want to maybe take those down, put up something a little neutral. The goal is to have a potential buyer envision their stuff in your space. As far as professional staging and maximizing your space goes, you definitely want it to look polished, clean, sharp, and homes that utilize staging sell 5% higher than those who don't. And that could mean tens of thousands of dollars to a seller. So keep that in mind. And also, we include staging in our fee, and it's made a huge difference. It makes a really big impact. For deep cleaning, some people don't always think of this one, but it's a big impact maker. If you get a team in there that is a professional cleaning team, they'll clean the baseboards, the windows, the drawers, the cabinets, things that you don't typically clean because you're busy living in there. And it makes a big difference. It makes it just look show ready. As far as curb appeal, it is the first thing that a potential buyer is going to see when they come up to your house. You want to make it look inviting. Sometimes something as simple as planting a few spring flowers and laying some mulch just makes it look real nice and homey. Another example of return on investment is you may think that your whole exterior needs to be painted when likely just painting the trim could make it look like a whole new house, and that's made a big difference in the past. So that's preparing your house for the market. And then Manya will now talk about pricing strategies.
So pricing strategies. So a couple of things that usually stands out is I frequently get asked, well, how true or accurate is it, the Zestimate, for example, that's on Zillow. So you don't want to pay attention to all the third-party home sites because that is not going to give you the most accurate value for your property. What you want to do is we want to come in there, we want to assess your property based on all of the upgrades that you've done, because you can potentially have put in a ton of upgrades. You have all the, for example, what if you have a view, based on the condition of your property, we'll assess your personal property and give you a value based on that. So don't pay attention to all the third-party sites. We'll come in and give you the most accurate pricing as far as what we should go live on the market for. The next thing is aggressive price positioning and higher and multiple offers. So what that means is we want to be aggressive on our pricing. We don't want to be too high where it kind of, you're now invisible to a certain group of buyers. Okay. We want to position you where you can potentially get multiple offers based on the pricing. Because if you're priced over, all of the other comps, then buyers are going to be like, well, no, this is too high. They're not going to want to see it. So it's important to make sure that we price it aggressively so we can get 100 buyers looking at your home, and now that creates a demand. The danger of pricing too high is what's going to happen is you're going to sit on the market, and now what that's going to create is buyers are going to start questioning as far as, well, why is this property on the market too long, considering in our current market, and then they're going to start negotiating and start giving you a lower offer. So we definitely want to avoid that. Pricing for appraisal consideration. So the other thing, because when a buyer gives you an offer, one of the contingencies is obviously appraisal based on if they're, if it's not a cash offer, they're going to have an appraisal contingency. So we want to make sure we price it according to the comparable sales. So we don't run in the middle of escrow, we don't run into appraisal issues. Okay. And the other thing is, once we review offers with you, keep in mind the highest price does not always mean that it's the best offer. We want to review all of the terms of all of the buyers to make sure they qualify and they have the financial means to close this transaction. We want to talk to their lender on the back end, do all of the work for you to make sure that you're in the middle of escrow. We're not going to run into any issues with that particular buyer. Because if they're, for example, if their debt to income ratio is too high, that's already a red flag. If they don't have enough funds, if they barely have enough funds just to put the 20% down, and in the event we do run into an appraisal issue, then that might create a problem. So those are all things that we will look at and review with you and point out everything just to make sure that you're clear and you understand what is going to be the best offer, for you to accept. No, okay. Negotiations. So your home, let's for a minute pretend your home is on the market where we've done our marketing and now we have received 20 offers. We have multiple offers, and now we're in the middle of counter offers. What that means is we're going to sit down with you and point out, we're going to highlight all of the the offer package. We're going to highlight their finances, their terms, everything that you need to know, and then counter back to those buyers and negotiate on your behalf based on your terms, whatever, you are always in the driver's seat at this point. So whatever those terms mean for you. So for example, let's say, you know, you need to have a 45-day escrow, then we are in the driver's seat, and then we can put those terms on paper and send it back to all of those buyers to let them know, here are the terms that the seller is looking for, and see who agrees. Okay, so just be mindful, you're always at the driver's seat. Okay, so for example, to give you an idea, we have a seller currently who's in escrow. They need rent back, so we have to negotiate that in the terms for them because they weren't ready to move out, you know, in the next 30 days. The next step from there, once we accept an offer, is the buyer is going to do an inspection, and we're going to go through the repair request. Now, the repair request, it's basically what we're going to do is we're going to review that inspection report. And at that point, you can decide if you want to give that buyer any type of credit or you want to do any of the repairs. Now, keep in mind, one of the things that we do differently is we do our inspection upfront to eliminate any questions for these buyers. So when we come in and we meet with you, one of our services is we do all the pre-inspections upfront so the buyers can review those inspection reports prior to coming back to us and saying, we want all of these repairs. We're very transparent on our listings to let them know, here's what it looks like, because at that point, once we accept an offer, we don't want them to come back and renegotiate terms and price with us. Appraisal issues, the same thing. We want to make sure that we review that offer, that buyer's package, to make sure they have enough funds in the event that we do ask them to remove appraisal contingency, that they have enough funds to bridge that gap in the event it comes in short. The next thing is rent back. So there is a maximum period that the lender will allow. It's typically about 59 days. However, that does not, and what that means is if you are not ready to make your move, we can close escrow, do a 30-day escrow period. And then from there, you can do a 59-day rent back. And then from there, if you need any additional time, those are things we can negotiate with the buyers on your behalf. Allocation of cost of what it takes, what does the seller pay for? So the seller typically pays for half escrow fees, title policy, HOA transfer fees, county transfer tax fee, home warranty, recording fee. So those are typically all of the fees that the seller pays for. And from here, I'll send it back to Noelle.
And if we're actually going to throw it to Andrea, but if you have any questions, I've unmuted. So if you want to ask any questions throughout the transaction, we have a small group today, or throughout the workshop, please feel free to either just raise your hand in the chat or put a question in the chat, or feel free to pop out and ask us a question. But we'll also address some questions and answers at the end of the workshop tonight, because we have the benefit of having a smaller group, which makes this a perfect opportunity for us to go through any hypothetical situations that you might want to talk through, or just say, in this issue, you know, in this instance, what if this happens? And we can give you some scenarios about what to expect. So after we talk with Andrea, we'll talk a little bit more about some of those contingencies and hypotheticals, but Andrea is going to talk about some expectations for what to prepare for when you're moving out.
Okay, so you have prepared your home, you priced it aggressively, you've negotiated well and accepted an offer. Now you're thinking about you're moving out. So what to expect there. It's very important, especially right now, to remain flexible. Escrow can be a moving target. There's usually an estimated close of escrow date. So when you are making your plans, you want to keep that date as penciled in. Things can happen, things can change. So keep that in mind. When to turn off your utilities. It's a good idea to call the utility companies and have them about 2 to 3 days before close of escrow, or estimated close of escrow. You need to keep the utilities on until close of escrow, and then you can take them out of your name and the buyer will take over from there. As far as planning for moving expenses, you definitely, if you're getting a mover, you want to schedule your movers a couple weeks in advance. Movers can get I'd say maybe even a month. And as soon as you know when you think you might be moving, movers can get pretty booked up. And it's a good idea to ask them about storage options. If there's going to be any gap between homes, lots of movers have some temporary storage options. So look into that if you need to. Typical moving stuff, pare down, donate what you don't need, label your boxes. And a little tip is to give your movers a floor plan of your new home. And so if your boxes are labeled, they can figure out just which room each box goes in, and makes it a little easier. Another tip is to pack an overnight bag. It sounds silly, but you don't want to be looking in a box in the garage for your toiletries, clothes, any medications that you might need. That stuff's important, so have it handy. And expectations for the property condition at move out, unless it's stated in the contract, your home is to be delivered in wiped down and swept condition. But it really goes a long way to your buyer to have a professional cleaning crew come in and just clean the place on your way out. It's better to have it professionally cleaned. But and then as far as appliances, you definitely want to leave whatever appliances were agreed upon in your contract. So if your buyer is keeping your fridge and your washer and dryer, make sure those stay. If you have agreed to take down your TV wall mounts, make sure that once you remove them, you patch and paint the walls where they were. And it's important to provide us with your forwarding address. We like to give our clients gifts. You also need closing documents and insurance information and stuff. So just make sure that you provide us with your forwarding address for anything that might come up in the future. And now Noelle will talk about navigating closings.
Well, it's both actually.
Yeah.
So when we started the talk tonight, we talked a little bit about, as a seller right now, one of the biggest questions for a lot of sellers is, okay, in this climate right now, it's great for me as a seller. I can pretty much ask for the terms that I need to ask for within reason. There's always tolerance levels a buyer will have, but at the same time, if I'm a buyer in this market, what does that mean for me, and what can I do? Do I need to sell my home first in order to buy a home? And I would say the resounding answer is most likely yes. If you have to buy your new home contingent on the sale of your home because you're using the equity in your current property to purchase your new home as a down payment. So that's called a concurrent and contingent close of escrow. It means that you're going to try to do both at the same time. So you can't put the cart before the horse in this market, because if you find your dream property and you want to buy that contingent on the sale of your property, it's no bueno for that seller if you are not already on the market in escrow with a buyer, knowing what the terms of that sale are, and making sure that the buyer's contingencies are either removed or in the process of being removed on your sale. The seller on your purchase, whoever you're making an offer to for this dream house that you found, is not going to take you seriously, and they're not going to consider your offer as an actual bona fide offer if you are not at least on the market in escrow, and that they know what the timeframes are going to be, because they'll have potentially 3, 4, 5, 20 offers waiting in the wings who will be in a position. You're competing in this market against non-contingent offers, cash offers, people who are ready to just throw the baby in the bathtub in with the sale. I swear to God, it's crazy. So you need to position yourself as a seller. If you want to purchase a property concurrently, you need to take the steps to get your ducks in a row now. And that is to make sure that you work with a professional agent up front as soon as possible to help you determine what your timeframes are going to be and what the next steps are. That's making sure that whatever market preparations that you need to do, and we talked about preparing your home for sale, that those get done quickly and in a timely fashion, and you know what that schedule is going to look like, and that you have a schedule of when you're going to put the property on the market live for marketing, And then you have to do some projections with your agent to figure out, okay, likely when will my home, once it's marketed, go into escrow? How long of a period will I have to find my replacement property? And then you have some contractual protections that you need to make sure that you have your agent put into your paperwork or your negotiations for you. And those contractual protections are, if you want to buy a home contingent on the sale of your property, you can also do one of two things. You can make your replacement purchase a contingency of your sale. So if you have your home coming on the market and you want to tell the buyers who are coming to look at your home that you are interested in their offer, you're willing to look at all of their offers, you're excited about their offers. However, you will only accept an offer contingent or conditional on you buying a replacement purchase. That is something that you can have as a contractual protection, so that if you go into escrow with your buyer, you don't end up homeless if you can't find a property of your choosing, or you can't open an escrow or get an acceptance on something that is acceptable to you. So there are specific contractual protections and addendums that we have to add into a contract when we're negotiating to make sure that if that's what you want, that we have to make sure that that's very clearly written. Now, normally there are time frames associated with this. So as a seller, if you want to purchase a replacement property, your buyers, your potential buyers, most likely in this market, this is the beautiful leverage that you get to enjoy in this market, will consider a contingent purchase. However, their tolerance levels are based on kind of what the industry standards are. So there's some time frames. If you're going to put that contingency on there, the buyer is usually only going to give you a period of time in which to identify that replacement property. That could be, the standard in the contract is only 17 days. So if you want to buy contingent on your replacement purchase, that would mean from the day you open escrow with your buyer, you have 17 days, according to the contract, to find your replacement purchase, put it in escrow, and provide them with documentation that you've done that. However, you can ask for longer. We just negotiated one for a client where we had a 60-day escrow and we asked for a 30-day contingency for their replacement purchase. And we got it on the 30th day, but it took 30 days to get it. And it took 8 offers. So this is not an easy market as a buyer to be in. It's a battleground out there, and you need some time in order to be successful. Now, you might get lucky out of the gate and find a seller who will work with you with a contingency, but a lot of factors have to be in place. Again, you have to be in escrow, you have to document and basically provide documentation to the potential seller that you're a calculated risk, that they can count on you to perform because you've already put these things in place for your sale. Now, the other thing you can do, instead of a contingent purchase, and having those two things close together, that's what's called a concurrent close. If you're selling and purchasing at the same time, it's a concurrent close. You could do a straight close of escrow where you sell your home, but like Manya talked about, instead of making it contingent on your purchase, you close escrow, get your cash from the sale, and then you can take that cash to find and identify your replacement property without worrying about the contingency when you're making offers, but then rent back from your existing buyer. So that means you become the tenant in your own house. You're going to then become, your buyer is your landlord now, and you are the tenant, and there's a tenant-landlord relationship. And again, contractual protections are crucial. You want to make absolutely sure that your realtor has made sure to put in the contractual protections that specify who's responsible for what during that rent back period. A lot of it happens through escrow. So if you are selling your home and your buyer comes in and says, yes, I will give you a rent back, you're normally going to rent back at whatever the buyer's payment amount is. That's their total payment amount, their principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And if there's homeowners association, that too. That's called the total payment. And it's prorated for whatever rent back period term that you have. However, in the negotiations for a rent back, when you're negotiating your offer with your buyer, you can ask for a rent back at no cost. You can ask for a rent back at a reduced cost. I'm going to tell you right now, some of the payments that these buyers are having to make are astronomically high. So if you've been in your property for, let's say, 15, 20 years, and your mortgage is maybe $2,800 a month, somewhere around there, maybe less, these buyers who are buying your properties now at these current prices and interest rates, I just had one where they're buying a $915,000 house and their payment is $5,000 a month. I'm sorry, $5,300 a month. That's a high rent per month if you're renting back. So that's a consideration as a seller that you can make. If you're going to negotiate terms, that's something that your professional real estate agent, and this is something we do for our clients, can push back a little bit. If you have the leverage of multiple offers and you have some buyers that are willing to consider a rent back, you can negotiate what the terms of that rent back are. That would give you some flexibility and potentially a lower cost to stay in your home for, like Manya said, up to 59 days beyond the close of escrow, so that you can identify your replacement purchase cash in hand and then be able to move on to that next property with some flexibility, whether it's out of state, in state, local, it doesn't matter. You can rent back for a period beyond 59 days, but it has to be a separate agreement that happens. And we'll get into scenarios with that if you have questions about that. But that's how you can handle navigating the sale and a purchase. And those, when we talk about financial and liability considerations down here, that's what we mean by financial considerations are, how much would rent back cost me? What is my exposure if I make an offer, let's say I accept an offer contingent on my replacement purchase. What if I back out? What if I can't find a replacement purchase? Am I going to be in financial trouble with the buyer that I accepted an offer from? And the answer is, unfortunately for that buyer, no. If you build in a contingency, then you have the right to cancel if you cannot find a replacement purchase. But most agents, if your agent is worth their salt, will try to negotiate for their buyer that you pay them back for the cost of inspections. That might be the only thing that you might be out if you agree to that. But the contingency itself protects you from financial obligation if you can't find a replacement purchase. It doesn't protect you in a rent back. Once you close escrow in a rent back situation, if you did not have a contingency for replacement purchase, that means at the end of the rent back, you have to get out. And you are not protected by the moratorium due to the pandemic. You as an owner are not the same as what a tenant would be afforded as far as rights and what they have based on the moratoria right now that's happening because of COVID-19. So don't think that you can squat in your house for the period of time that COVID allows some of the previous tenants. You had to have already been established as a tenant and have been affected directly by the pandemic and show loss of income. There's a whole host of things that have to happen. So we've seen some news articles about things that are happening, and those news articles are almost overwhelmingly, the evidence is that those people were tenants. They were not owners that are not getting out of the house because they knew that they could take advantage, unfortunately, of the moratoria that was in place. Liability considerations is a huge thing when we talk about rent back. So if a seller is going to stay in their home after the close of escrow, that's why it's crucial when we talk about contractual protections. There are very specific clauses in your rent back agreement that need to specify who's responsible for what. Because technically, once you close escrow, that becomes the buyer's house. It is their property. And then their homeowner's insurance goes into effect as of the date of close of escrow. You don't have any protection for your personal property or liability if something were to happen. Let's say your dog bites a kid. They might have some protection from their homeowner's insurance, but you wouldn't have protection unless you get your own insurance policy during that rent back period. So it's crucial that you understand that you are responsible for your own insurance policy, for a renter's policy or liability policy if you're renting back. And it feels weird to get a renter's policy on your own home that you just moved out or haven't even moved out of. But that's what has to happen in order for a rent back to really be protective of both parties involved. And the worst case scenarios can happen. They're few and far between where something happens, whether there's water, flood, fire, something that happens during the rent back period. If something like that were to happen and it wasn't due to negligence, it would be the buyer's or the landlord's responsibility to file the homeowner's insurance claim under their policy, not yours. So there's a lot of nuances, and we have the experience to be able to help our clients navigate that. We've been doing rent backs for many, many years, but more so now than ever. I think I've seen probably 80% of our contracts have had some rent back period, whether it be 3 to 5 days. Any time that you still occupy that house after the date of close of escrow, it's considered a seller in possession situation that needs to have contractual protections to make sure that you don't expose yourself unnecessarily. So that kind of takes us through some of the things to be prepared for as a seller that you might not have been aware of in regard to what's happening in the current market, what your rights and opportunities might be in regard to concurrent closings, market preparations, some of the things that you may want to do in order to make sure that you feel the most prepared as to whether or not you want to put your home on the market, and maybe just that you weren't really 100% sure about what was happening in the market and if this is a good time to sell. So if you have questions or scenarios that you'd like to talk about, by all means, we will open the floor to you and you can shout those questions out. If you want to unmute yourself, you are welcome to do that. I'm going to say, please feel free to ask a question in the chat as well, if your background noise does not allow you to unmute yourself. And if there's no questions, we're going to conclude the recording here shortly, and we will push this recording out to our participants tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. Again, this is the Nest SoCal group with Keller Williams Spectrum Properties, and we are based out of the South Orange County area in Lake Forest and Mission Viejo. And I am Noelle Longmire. We have Manya Persikian right here in the corner, based on where your screen is, I'm not sure, and then Andrea Connor.
Hello.
Who are our Orange County specialists and can assist you with any questions that you have. So our contact information will be in the email that gets sent out to you with the recording, and you can reach out to any of us with questions or scenarios that you'd like to talk through, or if you'd like us to have to come out to actually evaluate your specific home to give you a free market evaluation. There's no cost for a consultation. It's absolutely free. We have no expectation of doing anything other than earning the opportunity to interview with you at some point. If you're interested in selling your home, we'd love to have the opportunity to interview for the job of helping you with that. But for the most part, we'll come out for free and kind of help you figure out what your next steps are. And then you can take it from there. The ball's in your court. Perfect. Thank you very much, Roger. No problem. Anytime you need additional resources or help, we also have amazing options for you for resources for contractors, handymen, estate sales, trust attorneys. If you need to even talk about that, we have a host of people that are professionals that we've vetted over the years that we trust and know that there's a trust transfer when we can offer that to our clients. So please be sure to reach out to us for any resources for any of your real estate needs. And if you're just thinking about buying, or if you have somebody who's a part of your family friend group that's also interested in buying, like I said, this is a tough market. So you really want to make sure that you're putting your professionals or putting your people in touch with professionals that know how to get it done in this market. And we have all been thankfully successful because we've been, unfortunately, through trial and error, having to learn in the trenches right now. And we're getting our clients into homes, thankfully. So we'd like to do the same for you and to answer any questions that you might have. So thanks so much for participating. If there's no questions, then we will push that presentation out to you in the next 24 hours and have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.